Welcome to the voice of St. Anthony Parish from Allston, Massachusetts, right here on WROL, 950 AM, 100.3 FM, and you can also hear us at CatholicAudiomedia.com. That's CatholicAudiomedia.com, and you are here every single Monday through Friday, and we're doing all the things that we enjoy to bring to you, especially during this week, which is Easter week. So it is the week. Every day we celebrate Easter Sunday. It's the octave of Easter, right up until next Sunday. Next Sunday is the second Sunday of Easter. It is also Divine Mercy Sunday. So this is the week that every day is Easter, which is why if you go to Mass, we do the Gloria every single day this week. Now, we're talking about what the effects of Easter are. And I talked to you on Tuesday about elements of the crucifixion that are key. So we all know the climax is, of course, when Jesus dies on the cross, but there are two other elements on either side of it that are essential to understand what it is that Jesus did. The first element is that he prayed in the garden, and ultimately he offered what he saw was a solution, but then said that he wanted the Father's will to be done. So he didn't want to get on the cross if it was possible for this to pass by, but if it was the Father's will, that's what he said, then may God's will be done. And I said that's an important lesson because, first of all, you cannot do God's will if we don't pray. As Jesus himself came right, you want me to do your will, I will do your will. But in order to make that statement, you have to be a person of prayer. So anytime we are trying to teach people morality without teaching them prayer, we're making a huge mistake. I will give you a great example, and maybe you can pass this on to any of your representatives who you feel are not, who claim to be Catholic. I didn't use that right. Who are Catholic, but are promoting policies against what we believe as Catholics, and you're calling for them to not receive communion. Let me come back one step. Now, I've taught on this in different ways, but let me come back one step. Are you teaching them of prayer? Are you teaching them to bring their difference with the Catholic teaching to prayer and ask the Lord to solve this problem within His will? That's really where we have to begin. And this is a real problem in our church because we have so many people who are using this idea of morality without talking about prayer. That's a huge, I would say it's a mistake. I'd even go so far as to say it's a heresy. We have no business. This is Catholic teaching too. Teaching people to follow morality if we're not teaching them of prayer. And you might turn around and say, well, if people don't believe in God, they're going to follow whatever morality they want. Yes, that's true. And we can teach them why things are the way they are, why we believe the way they do. As Catholics, we believe things the way that we follow them through natural law. This is the way the nature operates. Therefore, this is the way we believe understanding our morality through natural law. And that comes to us from the Greeks. It precedes Jesus, and we understand all that. And so we see this within the context of the order of nature. But if we're teaching that morality without teaching prayer, we are teaching natural law as the ancients did, and the ancients were pagans. You see that? So prayer is essential. But what's also there is we need to teach people that this prayer, now remember what I said on Tuesday, Jesus first prays, and with his prayer, he's able to engage in doing God's will because he prays and he in that he conforms to God's will. That's the ultimate part of the prayer and the Garden of Gethsemane. So that's the way our prayer has got to go. But then I said, at the end of the whole passion, when Jesus dies on the cross, the sanctuary curtain is separated. It's torn in two. And that means there's no longer a veil between us and God. That veil is no longer there. So, as I said, we can pray directly to the Father through Jesus. This is what Jesus taught. This is it. Prior to that, we really couldn't do that. So we pray directly to the Father through Jesus. You could do that if you were living in Jerusalem at the time, but you know where I'm coming from. Now, this is an essential element of what it means to be Catholic. Okay, do we understand that? So it's an essential element of what it means to be Catholic. It's essential to what it means to be Christian. When you are reading the Bible, especially when you're reading the New Testament and you see all the teachings that Paul gives, he's talking to people who are already Christians. They are not pagans, they are Christians. And he's teaching them how to live the Christian life. Now, one of the things that is not there, and I will tell you right now, it definitely would have happened. One of the things that is not there is anyone asking Paul why. Now, one reason is obvious. These are letters of Paul to their various communities. So there is no way to have in there a why because it's a letter. And there's no response letter in there, the Corinthians writing back to St. Paul. So what you see there is this letter from St. Paul, but he's writing to people who understand the two dynamics I just talked about. We now have a direct connection with God, and our ultimate goal is to ask the Lord to help us to conform our will to his. So when he is talking about different morality, he's talking to people who are already praying. And this is key. We're going to talk more about this on the other side of the break. You're listening to the voice of St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts, right here on WROL. Have you told anyone else about the voice of St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts, here on WROL at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and through CatholicAudiomedia.com? You realize we are a different Catholic program because we are not speaking just to Catholics.
We speak to ex-Catholics, atheists, evangelicals, and people from all different religious and non-religious backgrounds.
We do this from a Catholic perspective.
So you're not going to hear what you hear on other programs because we have a different mission serving Jesus Christ.
Tell your friends what we do here is different, and it is so that we all may experience Jesus, who sets us all free. And don't forget our own website, CatholicAudiomedia.com. That's CatholicAudiomedia.com. You can check out our website, check out the archives of the show, check out our Substack newsletter. You can check out all kinds of things. And don't forget, you have a standing invitation to our 10 o'clock a.m. Mass on Sundays. Now, this is one of the things that I'm speaking of. So when we pray, we understand this element, that we are praying that God's will be done, and we're praying that we understand that we have to pray in order to do God's will. Paul is speaking to people who understand that. So they're already people of prayer. In Corinthians, we know he talks about a prayer meeting. They're already people of prayer. And he is guiding them to better understand these teachings, but they're already people of prayer. So, as I said yesterday, if you're going through a difficult time, pray that your response, when you pray, you ask that the Lord answers the prayer in ways that conform to his will and help you to conform to his will. So this is something that Christians have understood, and we have to really, I don't know if Christians over the past few hundred years have understood, this is part of what we have to do. We have to realize our prayer is got to be based in helping the Lord conform us to his will, and every difficulty you have, and I told you Merlin Carruthers did a great job teaching this. Every difficulty you have, you pray that for a resolution within the context of God's will. You can pray for all kinds of things, but you want to see the resolution within the context of God's will. So, that's how we pray for things, because one of the things we say in the Our Father is, may your will be done. So when you are praying for something, you're having a difficulty at work, you're having problems at work, you're having problems at home, you've got all these things going on, whatever it is, you're praying for an answer, and you're offering to the Lord what you see as the answer, but you want the answer to be what he sees as the answer, what is in accordance with his will. Do we understand that? So that's the bigger thing. So you may have fascinating things that happen that are beyond your imagination. We saw that in the story of Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. Martha wants Jesus to show up and heal Lazarus, who is dying. He doesn't. But what does he do? He resurrects Lazarus. That wasn't even on that wasn't even on the table. And Martha didn't have that, well, let's ask him for this. That wasn't even on the table. So this was what the Lord wanted done. So Martha is saying, do something about Lazarus' illness. And Jesus says, yes, I will, but not what you're asking for. This is what I have to do because this will be more in conforming with God's will. And therefore, you expand your hopes that when God answers your prayer, providing you're asking that it's done within his will, that he's going to answer it in way that he's definitely going to answer it. And there's a good chance he may answer it in ways that you did not expect. And that's part of what it means to be a Christian. We'll talk more tomorrow. I want to call your attention to Catholic TV, which offers great faith-filled, family-friendly programming 24 hours a day. You can find your cable channel at www.getcatholictv.com, and you can watch online on the free apps or check out the YouTube channel. Daily Mass, Rosaries, the Divine Mercy Chaplet, and the Our Lady of Perpetual Help Novena are all available online and on demand. Check out CatholicTV.com. If you would like to support our program, please consider a donation to St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts. There are several ways to consider this. One is to purchase any of our merchandise, which you can find at the shopping tab at CatholicAudiomedia.com. That's CatholicAudiomedia.com. There are coffee mugs there. There's also my latest book, Encounter Christ in Your Humanity, all of which you can find at the shopping tab at CatholicAudiomedia.com. You can also donate to the show directly through either the Donate tab, also at CatholicAudiomedia.com, or by sending a donation to the U.S. Postal Service with your questions and comments at 43 Holton Street, Allston, Massachusetts, 02134. That's St. Anthony Parish, 43 Holton Street, Allston, Massachusetts, 02134. Finally, the best way you can support our parish is to attend Mass on Sundays at 10 o'clock and be a part of our parish. We thank you for any support you would like to give to St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts, the sponsoring parish for this media outreach to Catholics and other Christians in the WROL, WEZE, and podcast listening audience. In Cristo vivimos.